A pleasant morning to everyone. The PG and Research Department of English, Holy Cross College, Trichy, gladly welcomes you all to this pep talk on care and enhancement of self during pandemic. Let us begin the session by invoking God's blessings. I invite Reverend Sister Dr. Judy Gomes, Vice Principal and Head of the Department of English, to lead us in prayer and welcome our resource person, Reverend Father Arul Xavier.
Let's pray. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He refreshes my soul. He leads me in the right path for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. We invite the Holy Spirit to be with us throughout this day. And we here begin this activity in the name of Jesus. Very good morning. PG and Research Department of English, Holy Cross College is immensely happy to present the pep talk, Care and Enhancement of Self during Pandemic. At the outset, I welcome Dr. Sister Niranjana Antony, our Secretary, Dr. Sister Christina Bridget, our Principal, who lead us and support us in all our endeavors. Welcome, dear sisters. I extend my hearty welcome to Reverend Father Arul Xavier, the Director of Capuchin Institute of Psychology and Counselling, an erudite scholar with a blend of practical knowledge and rich experience, who has specialized in the field of counseling and psychotherapy. A man of great thinking, yet simple and down to earth.
You keep yourself aloof, you isolate yourself, or you begin to enjoy that saltiness. We can break this aloneness at any time. For an example, you want to do some studies and therefore you want to keep yourself aloof or alone and want to do the studies, that's fine. You can go to your friend's house, or you can go to another place, or you can go to your college. You can just keep yourself aloof and you can take care of your studies. You are taking up this isolation on yourself. This is what we mean by loneliness. Or I want to do some meditation. I go to a place, I stay there for 10 days or 15 days, even for a month, no problem. That is aloneness. Because I voluntarily came forward to take up this solitariness. And therefore I have the opportunity to break, or I have the right to break this aloneness. I decided to stay in one place for 30 days. At one point I feel like, I don't want to continue for some more days, therefore I want to break. That's fine, we can break it at any time. Whereas this loneliness cannot be broken because it is imposed on us. The social isolation is imposed on us. When you go through aloneness, you will not have difficulties. When you go through aloneness, you will not be having problems because you liked it. But when you go through loneliness, you have difficulties. Now, aloneness and loneliness both are happening for you, and you can very well go through that aloneness. The undeniable truth is that loneliness hurts people. This is an undeniable truth. Now, aloneness will not hurt people, but loneliness will certainly hurt people. Because you cannot visit anyone. You want to visit your friend, you want to visit your family, you cannot do that. Because you have to stay at home. You have to safeguard yourself. You have to follow the directions of the government. No public gathering. Someone is celebrating birthday or someone is getting married, you want to go and wish them, you want to be with them. It is not possible. Because you cannot travel from one place to another place. And more than 50 people cannot take part in the marriage. and therefore public gathering is not allowed. It is hurting people. My friend is getting married somewhere. Someone is celebrating the first birthday. I just want to be with them, but it's not possible. No socializing. When we are free, we go with our friends to cafeteria or we go to ice cream parlor. We spend some time with them and we have some chit chat that gives us some kind of relaxation. But now, such thing is not possible. No socializing. We have to stay at home. No travel. We cannot take up any travel. No buses, no cars. We cannot go around. We cannot go around to see different places. So it is really hurting people. And no outdoor entertainment. In the month of May, we all had to stay at home. We cannot think of this when things are normal. You'll find people flocking to shopping malls or movie theaters or beaches or to parks or to hill stations to enjoy the nature and to have some good time with the people. But such things were not possible during this time. In the month of April, we had to be at home. In the month of May also, we had to be at home. In the month of June, now we have to be at home, and the government gives us some directions. We need to stay safe. So loneliness is hurting all of us. And one thing we have, it affects us in different ways. The humanity can be divided into three different categories. Extroverts, introverts. If you are an extrovert and if you have to stay at home, it is really very painful. Because for extrovert, the extrovert has energy from people. When extrovert goes out to mingle with people, to talk to people, to chat with people, to mingle with people, they get more and more energy from them. But that is not the case with the introvert. Introverts, of course, they will mingle with people, but they take the energy or they draw the energy from within. The extroverts take the energy from others or from mingling with people, whereas the introverts, they take the energy from within. The ambiverts, they are half and half. They can mingle with people, they can take the energy from there. At the same time, they can also draw the energy from within. That's why you must have, heard from your friends saying, now, lockdown doesn't make any difference. I can just stay at home, I can take care of myself. Because if they are introverts, this is not going to affect them in any way. But if you're an extrovert, this is going to really, really have an impact on you. But staying home or staying at home, this is a confinement. This is a kind of isolation. In a number of ways, we are affected. Physically, we are affected. Physiologically, we are affected. Psychologically, we are affected. Economically, we are affected. And spiritually also, we are affected. We are affected in a number of ways. We'll just focus on how physically, physiologically, and psychologically we are affected. How this lockdown has created impact physically and physiologically. The first thing is that people are gaining weight. Many people have gained weight. Activity. You cannot go out of the house. If you have to work or if you have to go to the college or if you have to go to your office, you have to get ready, you have to walk for some time and you have to take the bus and then get down and then do your job there from morning to till evening, and you're just moving back and forth. Such kind of activities we don't have at home. We are confined to one particular place. We are just confined to our house. And therefore, we don't have any kind of physical activity. We consume, but the calorie is not burnt. We take food, the calorie is not burnt. And therefore, people are just gaining weight. Some of you must have observed, after 1 month, if you happen to see them in person, you'd be able to say, yes, you have gained weight. Or sometimes we could have gained weight, we may not be aware of it. When our friends see us, they'll be able to tell us whether we have gained weight or not. This is the physical impact of lockdown. Because there is lack of physical activity, we are gaining weight. Now, another thing is that we have more time at hand. You don't have to go to college or school or to office, work from home, and therefore we have more time now. We stay at home, and therefore people pick up some very bad habit. We are taking more and more snacks. Some people avoid food and they are into snacks. Very often they are consuming snacks. And therefore, without their awareness, they are gaining weight. Now, another problem that we come across during lockdown is poor sleeping pattern. During lockdown, there is no any pressing obligation. There is no any pressing obligation. When we have normal days, you have to get up early in the morning. Some of you may get up at 5 o'clock. Some of you have to get up at 4 o'clock. You have to do the breakfast. You have to get into your children, and you have to do the homework, whatever you have to do. You have to do everything, and you have to go by two-wheeler. So you have to spend lots of energy. And you have to do a number of things in the fall. You get up early in the morning. But now, these days, there is no any pressing obligation. And therefore, people begin to sleep for long hours. Some people get up at 10 o'clock in the morning. Some people may get up at 11 o'clock or 11:30. These are some of the things that I get over the phone. Some people get up at 10 o'clock or 10:30 or 11 o'clock, and they have the breakfast at 12 o'clock. They have the lunch at 4:30, and they have the supper at 9:30 at night or 10:30 at night. So there is poor sleeping pattern. There is irregularity in sleeping pattern. And people also have picked up this unhealthy diet. They are at home. They have to prepare breakfast, lunch, supper. The same food is being prepared again and again and again. And therefore, people are bored of the same food. So they'll be asking, Mom, why are you preparing the same thing again and again? So do something different. So they give the cell phone to mom and ask her to open the YouTube, and they watch something and they begin to prepare something. So they are preparing something new. If it is tasty, they consume more, and therefore they're just picking up this unhealthy diet. They try something different, and if it is tasty, they consume more. Once again, that leads to weight gain. And sometimes people are bored of cooking. We have to do the cooking in the month of March, April, and May. This is something very, very difficult. And therefore, now they go online and they order food, and that's how they pick up unhealthy diet. Because you have to prepare breakfast, lunch, and then supper from Sunday to Saturday. You have to prepare once again. The next week you have to just keep preparing, and therefore you find it very difficult. Therefore, they say, okay, it's better that we order online and get something. So we become an addict to this kind of junk foods. And since we are at home, we have more time to watch TV. Some people just sit before the TV. They get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock. They sit before the TV, and it goes on for hours together, 2 hours, 3 hours constantly. They keep watching. And some people have the habit of taking snacks and watching TV. They just bring one pack full of some eatables. They just sit before the TV, and they keep eating and eating and eating. They are not aware of how much they are consuming. They're taking more and more calories. So this kind of unhealthy diet is having impact on people. Another thing is excessive usage of electronic gadgets. During lockdown, people are using electronic gadgets more and more, especially mobile phones, iPad or iPod or TV, laptops and desktops. There is no any control. It goes on because they have too much of time at hand, and therefore they keep using the electronic gadgets. And because they are using these electronic gadgets, there is once again sleep deprivation, which they are not aware of. They constantly use the electronic gadgets, therefore they are affected very much. Now, people are not aware that sleep, the lack of sleep, affects the levels of two hormones. One is leptin, the other one is ghrelin. These two hormones are important for our survival, especially to maintain our body weight. Now, ghrelin is the hormone which will increase our hunger. Leptin will tell us, yes, it's enough. You have taken enough of food and therefore, okay, stop eating now. But when people are using these electronic gadgets time and again, what happens? They don't have proper time for sleep, or they don't have the quality sleep they don't have. And therefore, the brain reduces leptin and raises ghrelin, which is an appetite stimulant. Leptin is going down. This hormone tells us that we have taken enough, we have eaten enough. But because there is no proper sleep, the brain does not produce leptin. And the amount of ghrelin is increasing, and therefore we become, or we feel more and more hungry, we are consuming, again consuming and consuming more. The brain does not give the command, you have taken enough, stop it, it doesn't say. So we are taking more and more food these days. And because we have sleep deprivation, people go through micro sleep, an episode called micro sleep. This micro sleep happens during the daytime. Micro sleep is very, very dangerous. We have to deal with some kind of machineries, or if you are driving, this is something very, very dangerous. How we can find out that somebody is going through micro sleep? A blank stare. People just keep looking at something, but if you call their name, they won't be able to respond. They just keep watching it for some time. Head snapping. They'll be watching something or reading something, automatically the head will just go down. Head snapping. This is also a sign of microsleep. Or prolonged eye closure is another sign of this microsleep. So what happens when people don't have proper sleep at night because they are using the electronic gadgets? They go through sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation affects the hormones. At the same time, it also causes micro sleep during daytime, which is affecting the driving or handling of the machineries. Something very, very dangerous. How long this micro sleep could happen? It can just happen only for a fraction of the second to 2 minutes. People are not aware of it. If you tell them, I saw you sleeping, your head was nodding. No, I did not sleep. I just kept my eyes closed, that's all. But they are going through this micro sleep. If you begin to yawn a lot during the daytime, if your thoughts begin to wander, you're not able to control your thoughts, you're not able to focus on anything, if you're not able to focus on your studies, or if you're feeling moody most of the time, or feeling very irritable, this is a clear sign that you are going through sleep deprivation. Now, how this sleep deprivation comes? Because of lockdown, we have more time. We are spending more time on electronic gadgets, and that causes sleep deprivation, and that's having the impact on the body. Because we don't take proper amount of rest, because we don't sleep properly, this harmful toxin, beta amyloid, is not flushed out of our brain. This is a neurotoxin. This beta amyloid is a neurotoxin. When we sleep properly, when we take good amount of rest, this is being flushed out. But when we don't sleep properly, this gets retained in the brain, and therefore it affects our brain very much. Now, all of us want to look young, and all of us want to look beautiful and handsome. That's fine. But if there is sleep deprivation, we cannot achieve this. Because lack of sleep ages our skin very fast. There is chronic sleep loss that can lead to dark circles under the eyes. You must have seen people having dark circles under the eyes. It's because of the lack of sleep. And during lockdown, we have a lot of time to sleep. But what happens? We are using more electronic gadgets, therefore we are not able to have good rest, and that causes this kind of dark circles under the eyes. So if you don't have proper amount of sleep, you don't have good rest, then that will age our skin very, very fast. Now, when we don't have proper amount of sleep, the body releases more of the stress hormone called cortisol. When we have right amount of sleep, the body does not produce this cortisol. When we don't take proper rest, then the body begins to produce more and more cortisol. Now, in excess amounts, cortisol can break down skin collagen. If you want to keep your skin shiny, you want to keep your skin smooth, then you need collagen. But because of lack of sleep, cortisol is breaking collagen, and therefore very easily you will find wrinkles on your face. At the very young age, you will find wrinkles on your face. And your face or your skin will not be shiny. However, you are using any makeup or any powder, things like that, it will not look good because cortisol is breaking the collagen. There is lack of sleep. The body cannot produce human growth hormone, or that will produce very less amount of human growth hormone. Human growth hormone, HGH, is very important for our growth. If you're in your teenage, that promotes your growth. You take proper amount of sleep. If you are taking good rest, then human growth hormone can promote the growth. If you are an adult, that will help you to create muscle mass and strengthen the bones. So, sleep deprivation during lockdown affects both young people as well as the adults. If you are young, you should have proper amount of sleep, only then human growth hormone will be produced, and that will help you to promote your overall growth. If you're an adult, you have to take very good rest that will help you to create or to produce muscle mass and strengthen the bones. If you don't take proper amount of sleep, your bones also will get weakened. Now, how this sleep deprivation is caused, or what causes sleep deprivation? Now, at night, before going to bed, some of us may be handling the cell phone or the iPad or the laptop or the desktop, or we may be watching TV also. So the light from screens will affect our eyes, and the stimulation from electronic gadgets also will affect. We are affected in both the ways. I take the mobile phone, I just look at the mobile phone at night. The light that comes from that mobile phone is affecting my eyes. And because I'm using the electronic gadgets, my brain is getting stimulated. It becomes very active. So the more it gets activated, the more I want to see something. I may complain saying, I don't get sleep, that's why I'm using the mobile phone. Because we are using the mobile phone, we are not able to sleep, but we are putting it the other way. I don't get sleep, and therefore I'm just handling the mobile phone. I just want to read something. That's not true. We begin to handle the mobile phone, and in turn, that activates the brain. It becomes hyperactive, and because it becomes hyperactive, you don't get sleep, and therefore you continue to use the mobile phone. So both are very closely connected. The artificial blue light that is found in the cell phone disturbs our circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm is a body clock that tells you what your body is supposed to do, at what time it has to do this and that. But what happens, because we are handling the cell phone, we are handling the cell phone at night, the artificial blue light will disturb the circadian rhythm. And This artificial blue light also will suppress the release of sleep-inducing hormone called melatonin. We have to produce right amount of melatonin to have very good sleep. But because we are using the cell phone or watching TV or handling the laptop or iPod or iPad, something like this, that will disturb the production of melatonin, and therefore we will not be able to have proper amount of sleep. These days, people go through a number of psychological problems. Among them, what comes first is anxiety. Now, all of you know what anxiety is. Now, it is termed as anxiety. A scholar by name David Lardner has introduced this terminology, anxiety. It's a kind of feeling, even though the cell phone does not ring, you feel like the cell phone is ringing. Even though your phone is not vibrating, you feel like your phone is vibrating. You have it in your pocket or you have it in your bag, and you feel like, yeah, your phone is ringing. Because the brain is constantly receiving phone calls time and again. It gets used to that. And therefore, it is expecting that stimulation. You are carrying your cell phone in the back and you feel like it is vibrating. You just open the bag and see it is not ringing or it's not vibrating. You have the cell phone in your pocket, in your pants pocket, and you are trying to find out whether it is ringing. It is not happening. You feel like it is ringing or it is making some noise. It is vibrating. It is not happening. So when people go through this kind of feeling, it is called anxiety. Now, during lockdown, this anxiety is increasing because we don't have a number of things to do, and therefore we constantly receive phone calls from our friends and family members and from colleagues, and therefore our brain is getting tuned to this and is waiting for the calls. This is called the anxiety. During lockdown, we come across technoference. Something very serious. We have to think about this. We have to discuss more about this technoference. Now, during lockdown, what happens when you are interacting with people? You are interacting with your husband, with your wife, with your kids, with your mom, with your dad, with your grandpa, grandma, or your friends. When you're just having face-to-face conversation with them, immediately you take the cell phone and just check something and then again talk to them. Once again, you text something and you talk to them. This is what we call technoference. Technology interference together is called technoference. So this usage, even when unintentional, for just for a brief time, this can affect the relationship. Because I'm talking to someone and the person does not listen to what I'm telling, instead of that she or he is handling the cell phone. They can just do it unintentionally, but it tells whether they value me or they value the cell phone. Imagine you are discussing something very serious with your friend or with your brother or sister, and they're just nodding their head and they're handling the cell phone. How do you feel? Because more importance is given to the cell phone rather than to me. This is called technoference. Technology is interfering in the relationship, and therefore it is called technoference. So when people begin to use these gadgets during a conversation without saying any excuse or without giving any excuse, then we call it technoference, and this affects the relationship very much. And during this lockdown, we also come across cyberchondria. Cyberchondria. Now, two things are put together: cyber and chondria. We call hypochondria. So two things are put together: cyberchondria. Cyberchondria. So, what do we mean by cyberchondria? What do we mean by cyberchondria? When people have the cell phone or any electronic gadgets, when they have access to the internet, they go through a number of pages to find out the symptoms of sickness, and they compare their symptoms with that and say to themselves, I have this sickness or that sickness. They may have a little bit of headache, or they may have some ache on their shoulder, or they may be having some kind of disturbance. Immediately they pick up the cell phone and they just go through that. Yeah, I may be having this problem or that problem, or probably this one. I have this symptom also. So they just get confused. This is what we call cyber conflict. Now, if someone is checking online for symptom information from up to 1 to 3 hours per day, we can say the person is suffering from cyber conflict. Some people spend about 1 hour to find out whether they are having any kind of symptoms. And they say, yes, probably I'm going through this symptom or this particular sickness. We can divide people into two categories. One is high in illness anxiety, the other one is low in illness anxiety. If a person is checking the cell phone for the symptoms for more than 1 hour, they come under this category called high in illness anxiety. If they are checking the cell phone for psychological symptoms or any kind of symptoms less than 1 hour, they come under low in illness anxiety category. Another thing that we have to confirm is fear of having several different diseases. People handle the cell phone and then they say, yeah, I may be having this particular disease, and this also I may be having, and this also I may be having. So they have this kind of anxiety, this kind of fear. So if people have such kind of fear, they are having cyber conflict. If they say, I have these 5 diseases, then they come under high in illness anxiety. If someone tells, no, I have only 2 of this, I have this sickness and this sickness, I have this disease and this is, I have only 2 diseases. If they come to that conclusion, then we can say that they are in low in illness anxiety category. And some days, they have checked 3 to 4 times a day. If you say that somebody is suffering from cyberchondria, they would have checked the cell phone 3 to 4 times a day and say, yes, they have this particular sickness. And when they look at the symptoms online, when they look at the information online, that will make them more and more anxious. They just they feel their symptoms, they become aware of their symptoms, and they look at the cell phone, and immediately that makes them very, very anxious. So we can say that these people are going through cyber conflict. Now, another issue that we come across during lockdown, or other times also, is called self-fitness. By this time, you must have understood what it means, self-fitness. People go for selfies more and more. Even just for ordinary things, they go for selfie. Before they eat, they take a selfie and then that plate. As they are combing their hair, they take a selfie and then send to friends. So wherever they go, they take selfies, and it just goes all over the world. We just try to circulate the selfies. This is called self-fitness. This is a new sickness emerging slowly these days. Not only during lockdown, it is present, but during lockdown, it is getting all the more severe. So the study is still going on to find out whether somebody is suffering from this self-fitness sickness. If a person is taking 3 selfies every single day, they are in borderline self-fitness sickness. They're taking 3 selfies every day. Occasionally you can take. You're going for an excursion, you're going to visit your friend, or you're going to a beach or your park. Occasionally you want to take some selfies, that's fine, you can do that. But if you're taking selfie every single day, 3 selfies at least, you're taking every single day, then you are in borderline. If someone is taking 3 selfies, at the same time they post it on any social media, they have acute selfies. 3 photos of themselves, selfies of themselves, and they post it on any kind of social media. They come under acute category. If someone takes infinite number of selfies, and if they post at least 6 of them, on any social media, we can say they are in chronic selfies. they come under chronic category. So if you're just taking only 3, you're in borderline. You're taking 3 selfies every single day, but you don't post it on any social media, just for yourself, that's fine. So you are in borderline category. You're taking 3 photos and you are putting it on any social media, then you come under acute category. And if you're taking infinite number of photos, could be 10, 15, 20, 25, and just go on. And if you're posting at least 6 of them on any social media, then you are under chronic category. Business today tells us that 87% of usage has increased. The usage of electronic gadgets, internet has increased these days in lockdown by 87%. Before lockdown, people were using only 150 minutes. They were spending time on Facebook or Twitter or WhatsApp, only 150 minutes. But during lockdown, 4 hours a person is spending on social media. So the usage of cell phone, the usage of electronic gadgets, they are on the increase. So these are some of the impacts that we have because of lockdown. These are the physical and physiological impacts that we have during lockdown. Now we move on to psychological impacts of lockdown. Whatever we have seen is more of physiological and physical. Now what we are going to see is the psychological impacts of lockdown. The first thing that we come across because of lockdown is the chronic stress. Chronic stress is the impact of lockdown. Something very, very serious that we have to discuss. Is stress good? Yes, to some extent it's good. Because stress is fundamentally a process that allows our body to function most effectively to meet the challenge. Now, you have exam. If you don't have stress, if you don't have right amount of stress, you cannot perform well. Yeah, I know everything, I can handle everything, just go and then you get stuck. But if you have a little bit of stress, that will help you to motivate yourself so that you can sit down and prepare for the exam and you can perform well. You're going to take part in any sports event. And if you say, yes, I don't have any stress, I can just very well handle that, again, we'll have problem. When you have a little bit of stress, that will motivate you to perform well. So stress is good when it is under control. But when it goes beyond our control, that's where we have number of problems. So stress helps us to perform well. It helps us to perform things well. And therefore, we cannot say, yes, stress is completely bad. But when it goes out of our control, that's where we have this kind of problems. So during lockdown, we have chronic stress. And because of chronic stress, we have these problems. We have anger. We go through frustration. We go through irritability. We go through emotional exhaustion. We go through a number of interpersonal conflicts. We experience low mood. We experience more and more anxiety. And we also experience boredom. Because we are experiencing loneliness, we have to recall what we discussed earlier. Because we are going through loneliness, we are experiencing stress. The stress becomes chronic stress. And because of chronic stress, we go through these psychological difficulties. Anger, frustration, irritability, emotional exhaustion, interpersonal conflict, low mood, and anxiety, and as well as boredom. Steve Cole is a scholar in University of California, Los Angeles. He says, feelings of loneliness trigger the body's immune system to increase its inflammatory response. When you are feeling lonely, the body's immune system, the loneliness increases body's immune system to increase its inflammatory response, because it helps us for fighting any kind of bacterial infection. So when you are thrown alone, your body is automatically creating this inflammatory response so that you can take care of yourself. It is for good. But what happens when there is an overactive inflammatory response? There's something very, very dangerous. You're going through loneliness, you're going through stress, and therefore there is a response in the body. But when there is an overactive inflammatory response, that becomes very, very dangerous to the health, because it creates the seed bed. It creates the seed bed for cancer, Alzheimer's disease, and cardiovascular diseases. So inflammatory response is good. It will protect us, but when there is stimulated over and over again, then that creates a kind of bed for cancer, Alzheimer's disease, and cardiovascular disease also. Now, greater loneliness leads to more stress, and in turn, more stress leads to a more weakened immune system. Because of lockdown, we have to stay at home, we cannot go anywhere. So we are experiencing this collective loneliness. Greater loneliness will lead to more stress, and in turn, stress will lead to weakened immune system. Therefore, we may become very susceptible to any kind of sickness, cold or any kind of sickness we get immediately if we are going through this loneliness, because we are going through stress also along with it. So loneliness-induced stress can activate the fight or flight response. We are going through loneliness that causes stress that will activate the fight or flight response. And when it can become harmful when it is continually activated over time. Flight and fight response is good. That will help us to take care of ourselves. But when it is continually activated, that becomes harmful to the body. How it affects? It can also affect the immune system's ability to fight off viral infections. Loneliness causes stress. Because of stress, our fight and flight system is activated. When it is activated for a prolonged period of time, our immune system loses its capacity to fight off viral infections. And therefore, very easily, we may get sick. Now, one thing that we have to remember is this: isolation is inherently stressful. When you're isolated, when you're put in one place, and you're not allowed to move anywhere, when you're imprisoned, when you're going through that saltiness, it is really stressful. Space travelers experience stress because they have to be in isolation. Prisoners experience isolation, and they also experience stress. Animals, when they are isolated, when they are in captivity, they're going through stress. These prisoners, when they remain inside the prison for a prolonged period of time, let's say 5, 6, 7, or 10 years, and if they don't have any contact with anyone, when they come out, their spatial memory fades. If a prisoner is brought out of the prison, and if he's asked to go home, he cannot navigate and find out way to his house, because the spatial memory that he had is completely erased, or it becomes poor, because loneliness causes stress, and finally spatial memory is erased. And the prisoners also had difficulty in recognizing the face. They were not able to find out whether this guy is a friend or not. So the ability to recognize the face is also erased because of loneliness, and that causes stress, and therefore this particular phenomenon is taking place. So isolation is inherently stressful. Now, we are experiencing loneliness. Loneliness causes chronic stress. When we are experiencing stress, the body is producing more and more cortisol. The cortisol has the impact on our amygdala. The amygdala grows in size. Because of loneliness, we experience stress. Stress produces more of cortisol. Cortisol will increase the size of amygdala. That slightly grows in size. Now, we all of us know that amygdala is responsible for fight and flight, as well as it is responsible for our emotions. So, if the amygdala becomes larger in size, people become more aggressive, they become more emotional. Some of you must have come across this phenomenon at home. Your parents or your brother or sister could have been very, very angry sometimes. They could have been very, very irritable sometimes. It is because loneliness has caused this impact. Probably the size of amygdala has grown a little bit, or it has become a little bigger in size, and therefore they become more aggressive, they become irritable, they get anger very easily. Or you yourself must have come across, even a small thing, even a simple thing can affect you very much. Just a small comment can make you very irritable. A small action by your brother or by your sister or by your mom or by your husband or wife that can irritate you very much. You can become very, very angry with them. It's because probably the size of amygdala is growing bigger and bigger. And the next thing that we come across during during lockdown is the interpersonal conflict. I would say we are experiencing interpersonal conflict. Lockdown is not causing this interpersonal conflict. Lockdown is only creating a stage, and we are experiencing interpersonal conflict. I want to give emphasis to this word experience. We are experiencing interpersonal conflict during lockdown. In other words, lockdown amplifies the existing condition. Because of lockdown, we have lots of problems at home. No, that's not true. That's not true. Whatever conditions we had, they are amplified during lockdown. If by the electronic gadgets. Most of us are having the cell phone with us all the time. You will come across some people who are keeping the cell phone just next to their pillow and sleep. Late at night, when there is a message, immediately they just take the cell phone and check the message. It will be 12:30 or 1 o'clock, 1:30. Some people are traveling from one place to another place, and at 2 o'clock they want to send some message, and they send to another person. And this guy is sleeping, and the cell phone is just next to them. Immediately they check the message. The sleep is disturbed. So fix a gadget-free hour that will help you to take care of yourself. If you're experiencing boredom, you have to do these following things. Now, congratulate yourself for small wins. You can do anything at home. You're just cleaning your house, or you're arranging your library, or you're doing something at home, you're completing some job. Congratulate yourself. So if you're appreciating yourself, if you're congratulating yourself just for small wins, that will ward off boredom. If you want to be free from boredom, if you want to ward off boredom, the first thing that you have to do is, even if you go through a small win, appreciate yourself and congratulate yourself. Because the frequency of success matters more than the size of success. No, when I complete my studies, I will appreciate myself. No, you don't have to wait until that.
Yes, ma'am.
No, once I finish my marathon, I will appreciate myself. You don't have to wait until that. Even if you just go for 5 minutes and 10 minutes, if you have accomplished that, feel happy about it, appreciate yourself and congratulate yourself. That's how you can fight boredom, or you can ward off boredom. Keep your body active. This is one way of fighting against boredom. The body needs some kind of stimulation, and therefore keep your body active. Some of you may be interested to do the reading or do some personal studies. That's fine. Sit down, do the reading. At the same time, just give some break during the study so that you can ward off boredom. When your brain continuously does something, then it gets into boredom. because the brain is constantly looking for some kind of neurological excitement. Stretch your brain muscles. We can stretch our body, but how to stretch our brain muscles? There are few activities which will help us to stretch the brain muscles. So you have to sit down and find out the areas of your brain that you use less frequently. Now, these days, during pandemic, during lockdown, we sit down, we handle the cell phone or just read, watch TV, and then read the book and then go to bed or just take rest. That's all. Or the areas in the brain which you have not used. You see this picture, you'll be able to find out. See, there are areas which we will not use during pandemic or which will not use other times also. For example, the parietal lobe, which is responsible for language. During this time, during this pandemic, if you begin to learn a new language, you can ward off boredom. You're not going to write any exam. You're just going to learn few words. So the brain is getting proper amount of excitement, and therefore you will not be feeling bored. Or you take any kind of problem solving things and you can just work on it. That will help you to ward off boredom. So you have to find out what you're doing right now and avoid that and do something different. That's how you can ward off boredom. If you're doing the same thing again and again and again, the brain does not get the neurological excitement, and therefore you'll be feeling bored. Just look at the child and we can learn from the child. You buy a new toy and give to the child will very happily receive that. The child will be very happy with it. First day, second day, third day, fourth day, you just dismantle it. And fifth day, if you give the same toy to the child, it will not want that. I want something different. It will just look for something different. Because the child is bored of that particular toy. There is no any excitement by using that toy. Therefore, I don't want that. The same thing happens to the human mind also. We are in lockdown. We are going through a very tough time. And we are doing the same thing again and again and again. And therefore, we are experiencing boredom. And when you are doing things at home, this is what you have to do. You sit upright. This will help us to ward off boredom. It looks very simple, but it's very useful. Sit upright. Because when you're sitting upright, what happens? It increases the energy level. You will not be feeling bored. It will enhance overall mood. And therefore, it is important that we sit upright. And when you're taking this crouched position, what happens is you are predisposed to hopelessness and depression. Some people take this posture, just bending down, because they are reading something or they're handling the cell phone, they're just bending down like this. And what happens, because they are taking this kind of position, crouched position, naturally, they are predisposed to hopelessness. And that will once again cause boredom. And when people are taking this kind of posture, naturally, the brain will recall depressive memories and thoughts. When you're sitting erect like this, there is more and more confidence. You will not experience boredom. But when you're just bending down like this, the brain will automatically recall depressive memories and thoughts. And that will lead us into boredom. So we have to find out how we are sitting and how we can ward off this boredom. When we go through emotional exhaustion, how to take care of ourselves? Share the responsibility with your family members. That's one way of avoiding emotional exhaustion. If you're taking care of everything by yourself, if you're doing all the works by yourself, then you may go through emotional exhaustion. So, to take care of yourself and to enhance yourself, you have to share the responsibility with your family members. The household chores also should be shared among the family members. Taking care of kids, that also should be shared among the family members. Only then we'll be able to avoid this emotional exhaustion. Now we have a problem. When you share the household duties with your family members, some would say, I don't know how to do this. You know, some cooking or some kind of job, when you give them, they will tell, no, I don't know how to do this. I cannot learn this. They constantly decline the request. It's not that they don't know how to do it. They don't want to learn that. So you can help them to learn that particular job. If you are doing things, if you're constantly doing things by yourself, then naturally you will go through emotional exhaustion. Excuse me, somebody is using the microphone. It's disturbing. Will you please put it in mute? Will you please mute the mic? Thank you. So emotional exhaustion is caused because one person in family during lockdown is doing everything by himself or herself. And that causes emotional exhaustion. So if you tell them, yeah, you have to do this job, you have to do this cooking, you have to do this, and if they tell, I don't know how to do that, and if they're declining the request time and again, you teach them how to do it. None of us come with the ability to ride bicycle. When we are born, we don't have that ability. None of us come with the ability to handle the cell phone or the computer, or we don't know how to handle the machinery. We don't just come with that ability. All of us learn things. The skills are learned. We learn things, number of things in the course of time. And therefore, if someone tells you, I don't know how to do it, teach them how to do it. And finally, we have to take care of ourselves. Personal hygiene and care is very, very important. Because developing and maintaining a personal hygiene routine is key to having a healthy body and mind. That's what I want to insist. So if you are taking care of our body, that will help us to take care of our mind also. I used to call some of my friends and have them and have some chit chat with them, or I used to call them over WhatsApp. And I find these people, and they look as if they are from the Stone Age. They have very big beard, very long beard. The hair is very long because there is no barber shop, and they feel like, you know, they are not going out and nobody's going to see them, and therefore it's okay just to be like that. See, when we get sick, when we have any kind of sickness, when we have fever, we cannot take care of ourselves, and therefore, you know, we just leave the beard or the hair and things like that. We don't take care of ourselves. So when we are sick, we have this kind of appearance, but now during lockdown, people have this kind of appearance. We take care of ourselves, or we beautify ourselves not for others, but for ourselves. So what we have to do is, when you usually go to a college or to the office or to any workplace, how you would go, how you would take care of yourself. You had to do all those things even during lockdown. So you have to take care of your personal hygiene. You have to beautify yourself. Yes, everything has to be done. That will have the impact on the mind. So the dress that you wear, the ornaments that you wear, the personal hygiene that you involve in, everything will tell your mind that you are doing well, you are safe, you are doing a good job. And therefore, we have to be aware of this. Now, we have to balance our hormones. There are 4 happy hormones which we have to be aware of: endorphin, serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. During this lockdown, we have to be taking care of all these happy hormones. See, endorphin is the natural painkiller. When do we produce endorphin? When we do anaerobic exercise, we are producing more and more endorphin. And therefore, what we have to do is, we have to do some rigorous exercise at home, if possible. So do some rigorous exercise that will help you to produce more and more endorphin. Make exercise part of your daily activity, because to fight boredom and to keep ourselves healthy, we have to do exercise every single day. Now we can do exercise at different times. If you're doing the exercise in the morning, that will reduce your weight very fast because there is more metabolism in the morning. If you're doing exercise during daytime, around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, that will help you to build up your muscles. If you're doing exercise at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the evening, that will help you to de-stress yourself. We have 4 kinds of exercise. One is endurance training, the other one is strength training, the third one is stretching, and the fourth one is stability exercise. We should have the combination of all these things to take care of ourselves. Endurance training is the aerobic exercise. Strength training is anaerobic exercise. Stretching is just moving back and forth. Stability exercise is doing yoga and things like that. So running, swimming, walking, aerobics classes and dancing, everything comes under this endurance training. Weightlifting, jumping, and sprinting, biking, all this will come under strength training. Stretching is very simple. Just stretch your body. That's how you can keep yourself fit. And finally, balance exercise, or we call it stability exercise. So we have to involve in this stability exercise to keep our brain healthy. You can find online some of the stability exercise. The next hormone is serotonin. See, serotonin helps us to be happy. If the serotonin level goes down, naturally we become irritable and we get into depression. And what are the things that we could eat to keep the serotonin level high? Flaxseed, sunflower seed, pumpkin seed, sesame seed, peanuts. So these things will help us to increase the amount of serotonin. Tomatoes, bananas, and pineapple, all those things also will help us to increase the serotonin. Very simple way is choose a positive thought and live that positive thought. Whatever may be the positive thought, just choose a positive thought and live that positive thought, or run that positive thought in your brain. That will increase the amount of serotonin. So think of a past event, a happy event, or think of the time when you have to be grateful to other people, what you are grateful for. That also will increase the amount of serotonin. And when we do exercise at low intensity, that will help us to produce more and more serotonin. Another hormone that we have to take care of is the dopamine. Dopamine is a pleasure hormone. When you achieve a particular goal, the body is producing dopamine. So during this lockdown, what you have to do is set daily goals and weekly goals. These goals have to be, they don't have to be very big. Very simple goals you can set. I just want to walk for 10 minutes today. That's fine. I want to do the 8 walking on terrace for about 20 minutes. That's fine. Once you reach that goal, once you complete that 20 minutes of exercise, the brain will automatically produce this dopamine. And finally, the fourth hormone is oxytocin. When we have appropriate touch with each other, the family, that will help us to produce more and more oxytocin. Friends, finally, what we have to take care of, what we have to do during pandemic is this. Keep up some timetable. So you would have come across these boys. They are very much interested in soccer, in football. In 2018, in the month of June, they went to Tham Luang, a cave. They went inside and it rained all of a sudden and they were just caught inside. They could not come out. 11 straight days, they had to stay inside the cave, but they survived. No food, no internet, no power, no proper food, no water to drink. But they were able to sustain for 11 days inside the cave. How it is possible? Because they had a timetable. They had a coach. He was a monk, a Buddhist monk. He was trained in meditation. He was trained in mindfulness. So he was the one who led all these guys into the cave. He made them to do things. He fixed a timetable for them, and therefore they were able to very systematically follow the timetable. And because of that, they were able to sustain in the cave. So So during this lockdown, we have to keep up a timetable because we have a structure hunger. All of us have the structure hunger. The brain is looking for a structure. My mind is looking for a structure. So we cannot say during lockdown, at any time I can get up, at any time I can do anything. No. You should have a purposeful plan, and you should have a clear timetable that will help you to sustain during this pandemic, during this lockdown. Some people say, I don't know what to do. I have lots of time at hand. I don't know what to do. If you say that you don't know what to do, create what to do. You should create what to do. There was a ship by name Belgica. It got stranded in Antarctic ice. They did not know what to do. There was no any timetable. Therefore, some of them had mental sickness. Some of them died because of scurvy, and everyone got dissipated. But later, Shackleton went by a ship to Antarctica. And when they got trapped, Shackleton gave them a proper schedule. They gave him a proper timetable. They had to get up at a particular time. They had to do all the jobs, and they have to come for recreation. They have to do some games. That helped them to sustain for 14 days. For 14 days, they could not see the land. For 14 days, they could not see any other human being except the crew members. They were 27 in number. But they were able to sustain. This like a lockdown. It's like this time. But they were able to sustain for 14 months because Shackleton gave them a proper schedule. They gave him a proper timetable that they were able to sustain. So have a clear timetable. And we have to follow 5 types of boundaries at home. Material boundary, time boundary, mental boundary, emotional boundary, and finally, physical boundary. When we follow these boundaries at home, then we'll be able to have a pleasant stay at home. When these boundaries are not followed, then we get into lots of conflicts. Often we think that boundaries are bad because they keep people apart. That's not true. When we have proper boundaries, we are able to have proper relationship because good fences make good neighbors. But should I have boundaries at home? Yes, of course. We should have boundaries at home. It's very, very important. Finally, friends, I just want to present to you some of the antiviral and antibacterial foods which will help you to boost up your immune power. Licorice is a kind of herb which will help us to fight against any kind of virus. So if you are making any kind of decoction out of this, or if you are mixing it with tea, that will help you to boost up your immune system. Cinnamon is also very helpful in fighting any kind of virus that we come across. Garlic is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful food that will help us to fight against any kind of viral infection. There's got allicin. When you chew the garlic, when you crush the garlic, allicin is produced, and that will help us to fight against any kind of viral infection. Shiitake mushroom is a mushroom that will help us to fight any kind of virus. And of course, ginger. Constantly we use this ginger at home, and when you're making some juice out of this and you're mixing it with tea or other eatables, that will help us to fight against any kind of virus that we come across. Apple cider vinegar is another food that will help us to keep our immune system very intact, and that will keep our immune system really, really strong. And finally, keep in touch with the Transcendent One. Keep in touch with God. So set apart your time for namaz, set apart your time for puja, set apart your time for prayer. So when we are in touch with the Transcendent One, we have a purpose, we are able to find the purpose in our life, and that will help us to go through this lockdown. So thank you, friends. Stay home and embrace aloneness. So we are moving from loneliness to aloneness. Embrace aloneness, and you will have a healthy life. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. We will end this session with a formal vote of thanks. Thanks be to God, He gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. On behalf of the Department of English, I thank our principal and secretary for initiating this program. I would like to thank Reverend Father Arul Xavier for his resourceful and informative session, which set a perfect platform for our life. My heartfelt thanks to Reverend Father Dr. Joe Sanjay for coordinating this program. I owe my sincere gratitude to Reverend Sister Dr. Judy Gomes for organizing this webinar to be a grand success. I also thank Rini, Valentina and Saliga for their constant technical support. Finally, I thank all the participants for rendering their active participation and cooperation. A gentle reminder, the feedback link is put up in the chat box. The participants are requested to fill it up. Recorded video will be sent to your WhatsApp. Participants can make use of it and send the feedback form. The feedback link is put up in the chat box. The participants are requested to fill it up. Recorded video will be sent to your WhatsApp. Participants can make use of it and send the feedback forms. Every story has an ending, but in life, every ending is a new beginning. With this fabulous event, we promise to meet in another great event. Thank you.